News in the Roger Stone criminal case. Federal prosecutors tonight say Stone has broken his gag order allegedly again. This famously bars him from talking or posting or communicating publicly about his case. And they say this wasn't like a one-time thing or a two or a three. They list 8 examples, including an online post that they basically say his defense team, quote, exposed the intelligence community. The prosecutors are calling for a new hearing on whether Stone has broken basically the terms of his release, meaning what keeps him out of jail awaiting trial. Now, this judge, for whatever reason, has been somewhat hesitant to put Stone in jail the way many other defendants are treated around the country. In fact, even after he posted a picture of the judge herself next to what many interpreted as crosshairs, she provided him a second chance. All of this comes, of course, at an interesting time because the Trump Justice Department at a higher level, not these line prosecutors who are going after Stone tonight, but at a higher level, intervened unusually to try to keep Paul Manafort out of a prison in New York. If these were any other defendants, or if it were actually literally Manafort's case, we ask, would the treatment be equal, which is what is required under our system of justice? I pop that question to 2 very capable analysts, Watergate Special Prosecutor Nick Ackerman, who has been battling Roger Stone in and out of courtrooms for decades, and Rutgers professor Brittany Cooper. Good evening to both of you.
Good evening.
Do you think on the law,
yes,
Mr. Stone, A, has violated the order, and B, should be incarcerated prior to trial?
A, he has violated the order. There's no question he's violated it. I think this judge has given him enough rope so he can hang himself. And B, yes, I think he's going to go to jail. And he won't go to Rikers Island because he's going to be in a federal prison. But you now will have both Manafort and Stone in prison, who are 2 extremely significant people in this entire Russian investigation that know the scope of what went on, Manafort who lied about what went on. And the question you've got to ask is, well, the 7.5 years that Manafort is now serving on top of what will become state prosecutions, and Stone, who is also going to get hit pretty hard because these violations are pretty significant.
So on page 1 of this new order, and folks watching, right, there's so much going on, as I kind of emphasized in our show tonight. People may not have heard about this. There are other times where this would be the biggest story in the world. If there was if the longest-serving Obama advisor was awaiting obstruction charges, the trial,
right,
and then violated their gag order, I mean, you can imagine. So, but it's the Trump era. But when it says on page 1, the Justice Department, that the court should consider, quote, modifying the conditions of release, does that mean in plain English, go to jail?
Yes. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. Go directly to jail.
And finally, before I turn to Brittany, you say, oh, he's going to jail this time. A lot of folks would look at this and say, well, didn't he do this before and he wasn't incarcerated?
Yeah, but she was given such a stern warning the last time. The judge put him on the witness stand. She basically read him the riot act. She redid the order. I mean, he is 2 strikes. He's now up to 3 strikes, and he's out.
What do you think when you look at a story like this?
I think that the brazenness with which Trump's comrades continue to flout the rule of law should alarm all Americans. And I think you're right. You're asking the right question, which is, would any other American defendant get this level of treatment? The challenge is that many Americans, and even our legal system, is not calibrated to see very prominent white men as being a fundamental threat to democracy, even though they keep violating standard and procedure and law over and over again.
Let's get into that, because Nick and I have spent time around these courtrooms, and judges especially, but a lot of people in this space think of themselves as very well versed on these issues. They've talked about the inequities. They've talked about bias. This judge, for a time, was kind of a folk hero of some on the left for cracking down on certain things, in contrast to a different judge who was lighter on Manafort.
Sure.
And yet you're saying something that often is revealed sometimes as, I want to call it unaware bias.
Sure.
This judge doesn't think they're going soft on Roger Stone, and yet we have covered, and I've done the stats on this show, cases in other parts of the country, in Chicago and elsewhere, where you don't get a stern second chance, as Ackerman quoted. You get no second chance.
Well, look, we can compare this. Think about Trump's rhetoric this week when he was asked about the Central Park Five, and he basically said that even though these men had been exonerated because of DNA, that he didn't believe them, that he thought that they should still be locked up. He didn't think that they deserved the settlement that they got from the city of New York. as contrasted to his friends, who all seem to be part of a growing and voluminous crime syndicate, but yet because of his power and influence, and also because of Judge Amy Berman Jackson's desire not to be seen as biased, that's part of the reason that she's going so soft on Stone. She's a woman, he has targeted her, and part of the way the Trump campaign wins the public is that they say that this is a whole sort of witch hunt against them. And so everyone is stepping really lightly. This is Mueller not wanting to say that the president committed crimes. This is Jackson not wanting to be overeager and locking up Stone, because everyone wants to give the appearance that they're being objective. But the end result is that these men, very prominent white men, continue to have a level of leeway within the legal system that any other defendant, particularly defendants of color, will never, ever get.
Well, that certainly goes for Manafort. I mean, the idea that the Deputy Attorney General interceded to get him out of Rikers Island and put into Club Fed is absolutely outrageous. I have never heard of it. It is always the Bureau of Prisons that makes that decision. It's not the Deputy Attorney General. Somebody put the fix in for Manafort to be taken out of Rikers Island. And I think that Congress ought to be investigating exactly why that happened.
You think that's inappropriate?
I think it's totally out of the normal course. As an assistant U.S. attorney, when I had somebody put into jail, I would talk to the Bureau of Prisons. I might make a recommendation, but I would never direct that somebody go.
And I think, Brittany, you've given us a lot to think about, especially the point when a judge is literally targeted, says final chance, and then appears to do something that judges don't usually do, which is get afraid of executing their own power. This is the power the judge has. And so it's fascinating seeing, again, the Trump Justice Department. We've said these stories are complex. It's not that the fix is in up and down the DOJ. Nick says that there may be problems in the Manafort case, and yet here it is, the line prosecutors, nonpartisan apparently, saying, nope, we mean it. And maybe Mr. Stone will have to await trial in jail like a lot of other people do because of poverty. Hey, I'm Ari Melber from MSNBC. You can see more of our videos right here, or better yet, subscribe to our YouTube channel below. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us, and we appreciate that.